Lyra's hands trembled as she unfolded the brittle parchment in the pale lantern light. The map's lines shimmered with an otherworldly glow, twisting and shifting if she stared too long. Rain rattled against the curved windows of her attic workspace, high above the cobblestone streets of Windmere. She traced a trembling finger over unfamiliar symbols, not rivers or roads, but spirals, crescents, and shapes that seemed to pulse with secret meanings. "Impossible," she whispered. "No cartographer marks dreams." A shrill caw startled her. The window banged open. Wind clawed at her hair as a dark blur darted inside. The world seemed to pause, time folding in on itself as a silver-furred fox slinked atop her workbench. His eyes, ancient and golden, burned with questions. "You found it," he said, voice ticklish and strange. "The map that shouldn't be found." Lyra stumbled backward. "A talking fox! I must be dreaming." He leapt, landing neatly on a battered atlas. "Dreams and reality bleed together in Aetherveil, little human. That's why you're needed. The map is calling." Thunder boomed. In the flicker of lantern light, a second figure stepped from the shadows. A tall man in a patched, hooded cloak, carrying an alchemist's satchel and smelling faintly of burning metal. Lyra's heart pounded. She recognized Rhys, the town's reclusive alchemist, thought by many to be long gone. "Your map is more than parchment," Rhys said, his voice guarded yet urgent. "It marks the floating isles, each guarded by spirits older than forests. Someone is trying to awaken what should sleep forever." Lyra glanced down. The map's lines pulsed faster, fierce and alive. "Why me? I only draw what I see." The fox grinned, his tail flicking. "Because you see more than most. You draw with magic, girl, and something dark is coming." The attic's air thickened, colors writhing along the ceiling. Shadows danced. Lyra tightened her grip on the map. "Then I'll go," she said, her voice small but steady. "Show me where to start." Outside, the world held its breath, and high above, hidden behind the rain clouds, the forgotten islands of Aetherveil began to stir. Lyra's boots thudded on the creaking dock as dawn broke, slashes of rose and gold edging the silvery mist. Rhys trailed behind, his cloak snaring on splinters, while Alden the fox trotted at her heels, tail flashing. The map pulsed inside Lyra's satchel, faint warmth guiding her to the rickety sky ferry tethered at the pier. Its patchwork balloon strained gently skyward, yearning for the clouds above. Rhys loaded a box of vials into the gondola, his words hushed. "We'll need every scrap of skill. The first isle, Stormrest, is guarded by the Tempest Warden. None have crossed him and returned unchanged." Lyra's fingers brushed the map, its symbols shifting as a pathway coiled around a blue spiral. "I'm not a hero," she murmured. "I just want to help." Alden leaped into the gondola's prow. "That's what makes you different. Heroes walk toward danger. Underdogs run at it, even shaking." As the sky ferry lurched upward, Windmere dwindled beneath them, cobbled alleys swallowed by fog. The world expanded into endless mist, pierced by glimmering fragments of islands above. Lyra's breath caught as Stormrest loomed into view. An island haloed in restless clouds, lightning dancing on black stone spires. The vessel landed with a shudder on a wet outcrop. Wind roared, alive, hungry. A shadowed shape emerged from the swirling clouds. The Tempest Warden towered, humanoid but shimmering, his eyes sparking with blue fire. Silver chains of rain swept at his command. "Why do you trespass?" the Warden boomed, voice the crash of distant thunder. Lyra's knees shook, but she stepped forward, holding the map high. "Aetherveil is at risk. I seek your blessing, and the secrets you guard." The Warden's gaze sharpened at the ancient parchment. "The map! The last time it was carried to these islands, a great calamity followed. Prove your worth, command the wind and save your friends, or fall as others did." A flash. The storm howled. Lyra blinked, the sky ferry broke loose, tumbling over the abyss. Rhys flailed, clutching at ropes. Alden scrabbled at the edge. Heart pounding, Lyra forced herself to breathe. She gripped the map, focusing. What if drawing wasn't just for ink, but for magic? Trembling, she dragged her finger through the air, sketching a swirling glyph she'd seen glimmering on the map. Wind changed, twisting not against but around her will, gentle as cupped hands. The sky ferry steadied, ropes snapping back onto the rock, crew safe. The Warden tilted his head, considering. "Perhaps there is hope," he intoned. "The storm bows to respect, not force. Take this." He extended a shimmering feather, crackling with captured lightning. Lyra accepted it, determined. "We won't fail." Behind them, the clouds parted, and the path to the next isle began to glow with promise and far-off darkness. The Sky Fairy soared higher, fueled now by the Tempest Warden's feathers sparking in Lyra's palm. The storm had passed, but nerves still thrummed in her chest as wind currents twisted unpredictably between islands. Rhys gazed ahead, eyes narrowed in thought, while Alden stretched out along the gondola's side, muzzle twitching. Below, the clouds churned in endless shimmering waves. Lyra unfolded the map, watching as a new path shimmered, a serpentine ribbon leading to a lush emerald island crowned with vivid blooms and waterfalls that spilled right off the edge. "The Isle of Wilds," Rhys murmured. "Guardian Verdant's, the heartroot spirit. She tests those who seek harmony and punishes greed." "Greed?" "I'm just a cartographer," Lyra said, trying to hide her shaking hands. "What could she possibly want from me?" Alden shook his head. "Sometimes the greatest threat is not what you covet, but what you fear to lose." They landed in a tangle of giant ferns and luminous moss. The air was thick with buzzing insects and the scent of blooming nectar. As Lyra stepped onto the soil, vines shifted beneath her feet, as if curious, flowers opening in slow applause. Rhys knelt to inspect a glowing root, but a voice echoed from the trees, rich, deep, and ancient. "What brings mortals to my garden?" Lyra peered into the greenery. A woman of living wood, crowned in blossoms and shifting leaves, emerged. Verdant's, her eyes old as the world. "Please," Lyra said, voice thin, "the balance of Aetherveil is threatened. The map—" But the ground split. Roots coiled, snatching Rhys and Alden away into the brush, their cries stifled by moss. Verdant's gaze hardened. "If you wish to pass, restore what has been broken by time and greed. Only then may your companions be freed." Lyra's mind raced. The map glimmered. She raked her memory for drawings, shapes of old trees and childhood orchards. Dropping to her knees in the root-strewn mud, she traced a spiral in the air, her fingertip glowing. The lines spun out, shaping a fractured stump, then healing it. Growth blooming from the wound, ancient ring after ring. Weak and sweating, Lyra opened her eyes. The air vibrated, roots unfurled, releasing Rhys and Alden, who stumbled back dazed but alive. Verdant smiled, bittersweet. "You remember life's cycle, not just its taking. For that, take this seed." She pressed a glowing acorn into Lyra's palm, and the map's path brightened once more. As they returned to the Sky Fairy, Alden craned his head up at Lyra. "You're stronger than you know, but the shadows ahead, they will demand even more." Far off, beyond sunlit clouds, a dark smudge marred the horizon. The next trial, waiting and watching. Lyra gripped the glowing acorn as they left the Isle of Wilds. The seed warm against her skin, the Sky Fairy sailed on, drawn now toward the chilling hush of dusk. The map's lines flickered with a faint cold blue, leading them to a new island, stark and crystalline, floating in a halo of winter stars. "We're approaching Celestis," Rhys said, pulling his cloak tighter as the air grew colder. "This is the realm of the Twilight Mirror, keeper of memory and reflection. Here, secrets become ice." Lyra drew a shaky breath, her doubts trailing along with the icy wind. Alden pressed close for warmth, his usual bravado dulled. "I don't like this place," the fox muttered, ears flattened. "Things we'd rather forget come alive here." As their Sky Fairy landed with a crunch on the frostbound island, a wall of mirrors shimmered before them, each pane reflecting not only their faces, but flashes of memories, dreams, fears. Shadows flickered beyond the glass, Lyra's mistakes, Rhys's hidden sorrow, and something in Alden's eyes that looked almost human. From the heart of the mirrors, a figure emerged, fluid, pale as dawn, with a gaze sharp as broken glass. The Twilight Mirror, its voice was a cold whisper. "To move onward, face the truths you hide. If you cannot, you will be frozen here, forgotten." Lyra swallowed hard. One by one, they stepped to their reflections. Rhys was first. He saw himself younger, a burst of green flame in his hands, the look of horror when an experiment went wrong. "I failed my master," he said, voice low, "but I fight now to amend those scars." The mirror emitted a pulse of forgiveness, and his path cleared. Alden's turn. His image shifted, first animal, then half-boy, fur fading to frightened eyes. "Once, I trusted those I shouldn't have. I was changed. I still fear I'll never belong." The mirror's chill eased, granting Alden passage. Lyra stood last, gazing at 1,000 images, her younger self hiding the map, pretending not to hear her parents arguing, shying away from adventure. "I always took the safe path. I was afraid," she whispered. "But I'm here now. I'll draw the future. not hide from it. The twilight mirror's surface rippled, and with a sigh that sounded almost pleased, it offered her a tiny, perfect shard of star ice. The way forward shimmered back into color. As they hurried to the Sky Ferry, Lyra tucked away the star ice. She felt different, stronger, surer, somehow stitched together where she'd once felt so small. Alden looked up, eyes bright. Truth is the sharpest blade, Lyra, and you wield it well. Above them the night sky swirled, and the path toward the heart of darkness gleamed on the map, closer, colder, waiting for them to dare the next step. A hush blanketed the sky as the Sky Ferry glided away from the frost-rimmed edges of Celestis. Lyra couldn't shake the memory of her own reflection, or the certainty that parts of her had shifted, subtle but real. The map now shimmered with two new sigils where she had placed the lightning feather and the acorn, storm and root, strength and growth. The third path wound into a dizzying spiral, drawing them toward a blaze-hued island, burning with an endless sunset. "This is Emberfall," Rhys announced grimly, "home of the fire Eidolon, who guards the force of change. Many come craving power. Few understand what it costs." "But you think we'll find what we need here?" Lyra asked, clutching her satchel of treasures. The warm glow of Emberfall was inviting, even beautiful, but it made her skin prickle with unease. "Careful," warned Alden, leaping from the gondola the instant it touched the scorched earth. "Fire tests more than your skill. It scorches your purpose." Ash swirled through the air as they traversed a field of blackened glass and living embers. Spires of crystal flame erupted from the ground, casting dancing shadows all around. When they reached the island's heart, a molten river barred their path, too wide to jump. From the flames, the fire Eidolon appeared, searing and bright, a mask of molten gold for a face and robes woven from sparks. "One piece of your journey must end so another can begin," his voice hissed and crackled. "What will you consign to the fire so you may pass?" Rhys stepped back, eyes uncertain. Alden's tail bristled, but he said nothing. Lyra hesitated, then looked at her satchel. She pulled free her oldest drawing journal, pages yellowed and precious, filled with every map she'd ever finished. "It's part of me," she said, voice shaking, "but it's anchored me to the past. If I let it go, I can draw what's needed, not just what's safe." She tossed the book into the flames. It burned bright, but for a moment a flicker of fresh white paper danced among the sparks, then flew into her hands, her sacrifice rewarded with possibility. The Eidolon bowed. "Only those who relinquish the old may shape the new. Take this." He offered a coal, blue as a cold star, pulsing with potential. Lyra accepted it, feeling a new magic course through her. As they crossed the now solid river of glass, Alden gave her a sideways glance. That was brave and foolish, and maybe the only thing that would have worked. Lyra smiled shakily. "Maybe, but it feels right." From the island's edge she looked at her companions. For the first time she led the way back to the Sky Ferry, the map in her hands burning with new light, and a distant shadow pulsing ever more hungrily, ready for their arrival. The smoky glow of Emberfall faded behind them, and a growing tension pressed at Lyra's chest. The journey so far had reshaped her. She felt the power of the storm, the wisdom of growth, the clarity of truth, and now the freedom of letting go. The map sparked wildly, lines alive as if urging her forward faster than ever. Clouds grew heavy and violet as the Sky Ferry approached the next floating island. Jagged peaks speared into the heavens, their tops shrouded in perpetual dusk. Shadows fleeted in and out of the gloom. "Shadowcarve," Rhys whispered, drawing his satchel close. "Domain of the Veilkeeper, a spirit who guards the secrets between light and darkness. It's said you can only find what you fear most here." Alden twitched his whiskers, tense. "Too many have disappeared in this place. We should be careful." Their feet barely made a sound on the silent velvet ground. Strange lights flickered between trees that had no leaves, only black glass branches. In the darkness, shapes shifted, memories and nightmares bleeding through. A shape materialized before them, cloaked in a swirling veil of mist and shadow. The Veilkeeper's eyes glistened, deep and unreadable like wells. "To pass, you must bring your shadow into the light. Deny nothing, or you will remain lost." None escaped themselves. Rhys stepped forward, voice hollow. "I was afraid of what I'd become if I failed, but I kept moving." The Veilkeeper bowed and let him pass, a glimmer of admiration in the ancient spirit's eyes. Alden bristled but spoke. "I fear I'll never be truly free of my past. but I can still fight for something beyond myself now. Another nod. The spirit turned to Lyra, and the world around her seemed to shrink. Shadows lengthened, swirling at her feet. She saw 1,000 versions of herself, timid, hesitant, insignificant. Voices in the gloom, whispering that she would fail. She straightened. I'm scared, but I came here anyway. I will not run from the dark. The shadows separated, then rejoined her, a warm, gentle cloak instead of a cold chill. The Veilkeeper extended a hand, pressing a tiny obsidian stone into hers. It was surprisingly light, and when she tucked it with the others, the map's heart glowed fiercely, lighting a path deeper into Aetherveil than ever before. Without warning, the ground shook. A faint, far-off rumble. Dark lightning split the sky, and the horizon of Aetherveil flickered as if something ancient and restless had just awoken. Alden's voice was low, almost a growl. It knows we're coming. We need to move faster. Lyra met Rhys's and Alden's eyes. She felt fear still, but now courage flickered just behind it, enough to hold the darkness at bay. For now, the Sky Fairy barely held together as it fought gusts rattling the hull and fierce bolts of black lightning that shimmered in unnatural patterns overhead. Lyra clutched the map, her knuckles white, willing the lines to remain steady. The 5 tokens now hummed at her side: feather, acorn, ice shard, blue coal, and obsidian. But the air kept growing colder, heavier, as if drenched in dread. Alden huddled close, his tail puffed with anxiety. There's something wrong with the sky. I can almost taste it. Rhys straightened, his usual calm cracked with worry. The balance we've restored caught the darkness's attention. We're nearly at the center now, the Heartspire. The map blazed, and the clouds parted abruptly. Before them hovered an enormous crystalline tower rooted to an island draped in night. Vines twisted up its flanks, and black mist oozed from jagged wounds in the stone. At its summit, a circular storm, half dream, half nightmare, whirled in agonized silence. Lyra hesitated on the deck, gazing up at the jagged path. "Do you trust me to lead this time?" she asked, glancing at Rhys and Alden. "You've gotten us this far," Rhys said, forcing a small smile. "You see what the rest of us can't." Alden grinned, though his eyes darted nervously. "I'd trust you over any spirit or shadow I've ever met." They crossed the threshold together. The air warped, blooming with flashes of memory and dreams that weren't theirs. The walls pulsed, showing moments when Lyra almost gave up, interwoven with glimpses of Rhys's exile and Alden's curse. But woven through these shadows was something new, a golden thread of hope, binding them together. Halfway up the spiral, the darkness thickened, and a figure stepped from the gloom, more shadow than substance. The entity's eyes glowed with stolen starlight. Its voice slithered through Lyra's mind, cold and beseeching. "You carry all the forces but lack the final gift. Only when you awaken the dreamer within may you hope to restore the veil. Will you risk merging your own dreams with the world's darkness?" Lyra's throat went dry. "If that's what it takes to save Aetherveil, I'll try. But I won't do it for power. I'll do it for everyone who still dreams." The darkness paused, as if puzzled. Then it surged, splitting the path, casting them into whirling visions, each alone, their deepest doubts whispering louder than ever before. Lyra found herself in a void, clinging to the humming tokens. She had only moments to act before she would be swallowed, her hope snuffed out for good. Her hand tightened over the map, ready to draw not just a path, but a future where even the smallest among them could win. Lyra was adrift within the darkness, no ground, no sky, only the pulse of her own frightened heart and the faint glimmer of the tokens she had gained. Around her, doubts pressed in, whispers of failure, of never being truly enough. But there, suspended in the void, the map hummed against her palm, steadier than any heartbeat. Suddenly, Alden's voice broke through the black. He sounded distant but fiercely determined. "Lyra, remember, every shadow needs light. Draw the bridge." Lyra drew a shaky breath and lifted her glowing finger, tracing an arc through emptiness. The tokens around her responded, streams of color, storm silver, green root, frosty blue, emberlight, and starlit black, twisting together as lines on untouched paper. Where her magic touched, a glowing bridge ribboned out from her, weaving toward the other drifting orbs of light. Rhys, clutching his alchemist's bag, and Alden, tail flicking and bright-eyed with hope. Slowly, the three made their way toward each other, their bridges dissolving the swirling void. When they finally met, Lyra pressed the tokens together at the map's center, and a radiant pulse burst outward, tearing holes in the darkness. It roared and stretched, desperate to survive. The entity's voice crashed over them. You meddle with woven fate. You risk all that was for what might be. Rhys, trembling but resolute, stepped forward beside Lyra. We've learned from your shadows. Now learn from our hope. Alden's small paw touched Lyra's arm, grounding her. This is what dreams are for. Even nightmares are just stories waiting to end differently. Lyra faced the darkness, her fear stripped bare. I am the dreamer and the mapmaker. I will choose the path. She swept the tokens above her head, drawing a great circle, a new path that merged dreams and reality, not in chaos, but in harmony. For a moment, the void howled, writhing in pain. Black mist clawed at the edges, but the circle glowed, splitting light from shadow with each revolution. As the storm inside the Heartspire lashed out in its death throes, visions flashed, all the islands, their guardians watching, the realm teetering between night eternal and dawn's promise. Then silence. Lyra, still trembling, realized the darkness wasn't gone, but reshaped, controlled. The map in her hand now shimmered with not just roots, but possibilities. Each isle, each challenge, now joined by bridges of hope. But above, the storm hadn't fully cleared. The entity's core, a single blazing eye, wild and hungry, remained. Alden shivered. It's not over. We're close, Lyra. If there's anything left in us, it's time to give it all. Lyra stood on the burning edge of exhaustion, panting hard, so close to the end, yet terrified of what remained. The map shone in her hands, pulsing with every beat of her anxious heart. Around her, bridges of light now connected the floating isles, their guardians watching silently from the edges of vision. Stormrest's Tempest Warden, Wild's Verdant, the Twilight Mirror, Fire Eidolon, and Veilkeeper, all present, all bearing witness. At the summit of Heartspire, the entity's true form at last broke free, a swirling, spectral serpent forged from living shadow and shards of shattered dreams. Its single blazing eye fixed upon them, and its roar sent cracks spidering across both bridge and sky. The boundaries between dream and reality thinned to almost nothing. A wrong step, and all of Aetherveil could be lost to nightmare. "So this is it," whispered Alden, pressing close. "All your clever drawings, are they enough now?" Lyra felt her fear like a stone, but she raised the map and tokens, her voice strong despite it all. "We came together as nothing but the cast-offs, the lost, the ones hiding from our own shadows. Yet we've built something real. No matter how strong you are," she called to the serpent, "hope and unity are stronger." Rhys stepped up beside her, holding a flask of swirling light crafted secretly from fragments of all the tokens. "Let us show you what it means to create, not just destroy." The serpent struck, writhing over the platform, shattering part of the light bridges. Lyra's feet slipped on cracking stone. All seemed lost. The realm teetered, dreams fusing with twisted reality, the sky a riot of color and chaos. Yet just before she was enveloped, she looked to her friends, Rhys, battered but standing tall, Alden defiant and loyal, and the guardians who'd once tested her. They nodded, lending shreds of their own magic, their voices whispering through the storm. Not alone. Never alone. A sudden pulse surged from Lyra's heart. Her map's final secret unspooled. She could draw magic not for herself, but to unite every being who held on to hope. Catching dawn's light on the map, she sketched a final glyph, a spiral of connection, her hand glowing with every lesson, every story, every fear they'd learned to face. A golden shield blossomed out, not just holding back the serpent, but reshaping the very essence of the nightmare. Around them the bridges healed, the torn sky stitched with light. The serpent howled, its form crackling and shrinking, the two forces locked in a final, earth-shaking struggle. Lyra gasped, straining, "We can do this, but only if we all believe." Her voice was raw, hope and desperation woven together. The guardians, Rhys, Alden, and all the spirits of the Isles channeled their power into her, the spiral glyph throbbing with impossible energy. Yet still, the serpent's eye burned, now a single point of darkness in the dawnstorm. No quick victory, no easy ending. The fate of Aetherveil balanced on a knife's edge, waiting for the last bravest choice yet to come. The world shuddered as Lyra, breath ragged and face lit from within by her own resolve, drew the spiral wider. The Guardian's magic, storm, root, frost, fire, shadow, merged with hope itself, swirling around the battle-scarred summit. thunder ripped through the sky, the serpent's eye pulsing with pure nightmare, and all of Aetherveil seemed to tremble on the verge of collapse. "Fight, Lyra!" Alden cried, fur bristling as he shielded her flank from a surging tendril. The fox looked smaller than ever against the vastness of the threat, yet stood unwavering. Rhys, hands bright with bottled storms and dreams, flung light at the serpent, forcing it back inch by inch. Lyra's hand shook as the serpent loomed. She thought of every moment she'd doubted herself, every fear, each step when she'd believed herself too plain, too ordinary. But from those cracks, courage had grown. She shouted, "You are not the only story written here." The serpent's eye met hers, 1,000 voices whispering temptation, urging her to claim the power for herself, to become greater than she ever dreamed. Lyra's grip on the tokens trembled. Could she resist? A single tear welled up, anger and love behind it. She answered, "I am not alone. I am the sum of all who walk with me." She drew a final glowing sigil on the map, one not of separation but unity. The tokens burst into light, spinning above her head, each guardian's spirit fusing into the shield. The bridge spanning dreams and reality grew solid, and those spirits, Tempest Warden, Verdant, Twilight Mirror, Eidolon, Veilkeeper, all added their voices. With a scream that split the sky, the serpent lunged. Lyra raised her arms, letting the spiral embrace it, not to destroy but to mend. The nightmare twisted, shuddered, then unraveled like a skein of old thread. Wisps of shadow curled harmlessly away, leaving a single thread of silvery dawn in her hands. A hush fell across Aetherveil. The platform beneath Lyra steadied, and morning burst, warm, golden, and real. Alden's snout nudged her hand. "You did it, Lyra. Not by strength, by hope." Rhys caught Lyra's arm, his voice rough. "The world is changed, because you believed we could change it." The guardians bowed, fading back to their isles amid the repaired bridges. The isles above the clouds glittered with possibility, no longer cut off or in peril, connected by new roads for dreamers and the brave. As the dawn settled and peace returned, Lyra stared at the map, now blank and waiting for its next story. She breathed in the morning air, feeling a new page waiting in her heart. As long as someone dares to draw, Aetherveil will have hope. Alden grinned, tail sweeping. And who knows what realm waits just over the next cloud?